celebrating a special day for you, and it's also a special time for Sales and Marketing Executives International. You're kind of star-crossed because today, October 20th, 2010, is your 75th birthday.
Wow.
Does that seem real to you?
It seems like 75 years.
I'll bet it does. And so what I said about being star-crossed with SMEI is Sales and Marketing Executives International had its first founding meeting at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel 3 days before you were born, October 17th, 1935.
That's why I missed it.
That's why you missed it. But it didn't take you long to track them down and get involved.
No, it sure didn't.
No. And I understand you got involved first in Los Angeles.
That's correct.
Tell me about those early days.
That was in the early 60s when I first heard about SMEI. And at the time I was in the life insurance business. And a good friend of mine introduced me to SMEI, and boy, I thought that was what I've been waiting for all those years, to get some assistance and help in sales and marketing, and it was a great experience.
And I remember you talking about that experience of getting involved, and someone actually came and interviewed you to become a member. Is that correct?
Well, at the time, there was a requirement at SMELA is that you had to have a minimum of 5 salespeople reporting to you to qualify for membership. It was really membership of sales and marketing executives and not salespeople, as it became later on. And I was personally interviewed in my office by a member of the membership committee to see if I qualified with having the 5 people reporting to me.
Wow. So stringent requirements, and they actually followed up.
Yeah. And fortunately or unfortunately, however the case may be, I qualified.
Did you get involved right away as a volunteer?
Yes. At that particular time, we had a very creative sales marketing executive director of the association, Lou Butterfield. And so she saw fresh blood when I came into the association, so she nailed me right away and gave me some kind of responsibility, vice chair of some committee, and from there on it was leadership all the time.
I remember a lot of people, including you, talking about Lou Butterfield. In fact, I believe she was at the SMEI convention when you were inaugurated as president chairman. Is that correct?
That's correct. She was there as my guest. I thought Lou Butterfield was probably one of the most significant people in SMEI in all the years that I was part of the association.
And that speaks a lot about the role of an executive director. What would you have to say about the role of an executive director?
I think the executive director is the glue that holds an association together. As I look back at over a lot of years, with a lot of associations, I can identify the executive director was a key component of any of those successful associations.
When you served in the local capacity, then obviously you moved on to serve on the international board. What led you to do that? What was your motivation?
Well, my motivation was that my good friend Don Estrin tapped me to assist him in the leadership of the association, both locally as well as internationally.
And was that a rewarding experience?
Definitely, very definitely.
So I remember my first ever international conference for SMEI was in Detroit, and that was the first time I met you, and you were being installed as president and chairman of the board at that time. What was it like to take on that role and that responsibility?
Well, it was an awesome responsibility, and it turned out to be much more complicated than what I'd originally envisioned, as some of the problems that we had in the association. And I spent a good part of that year handling SMEI responsibilities. But it was an enjoyable experience and a worthwhile experience.
So some of it wasn't exactly what you signed up for?
No way.
But rewarding nonetheless?
Well, yes, and I think that when you agree to a certain responsibility, then that responsibility still exists a long time after the initial enthusiasm wears off. And if you are the kind of executive that the association is looking for, then you've got to honor your acceptance of that responsibility.
I recall those days, Roy, and attending an executive session. I don't know if it was an emergency one or not, but the association was in dire straits. That was in the late 90s, and we had a meeting in Atlanta. And there were a lot of very passionate people in that room, you included. And you were quite quiet through that meeting. And then you kind of burst on the scene with a profound statement. Do you remember what that was?
No.
Well, I remember what it was, Roy. You said, "You sound like a bunch of bean counters."
No.
You're talking about something that's already happened. This isn't going to change until somebody sells something. Is that your philosophy?
Well, the theme of SMEI from the very beginning that was coined by Red Motley, the publisher of Parade magazine, his statement was that nothing happens until somebody sells something. And I sort of tried to paraphrase that during my tenure as chairman of SMEI, and that is that nothing happens until somebody gives something.
So some would say that you were the catalyst that really turned SMEI around because of that philosophy. Would you agree with that?
No, hopefully I contributed to that.
It does take a team, but it takes a good leader too.
I'm sure.
So I recall that very well, and it motivated me to get involved because I saw how passionate people were around that table. And so I appreciated that, and many members can be very thankful today that you took a lead role at that time. Would you comment on the profession of sales and marketing in general and your thoughts on that?
Well, I've been preaching from my soapbox for the last 40 years that selling would one day become a profession, a very respected profession, and I had no idea that it would take so long. And it's been a long, hard battle, but I think we're beginning to see that today, is that selling has some degree of professionalism, more so than it's had in the past. Still has a long way to go, but you see many people talking about selling as being a major contributor to the success of business. When Tom Peters says, everybody sells, take your whole organization to sales training, then that has some traction and will help accelerate the need for more professionalism in selling.
SMEI's tagline today is passion for the profession. What would you say about passion and how it plays a role as a professional?
Well, I think it's very important. I think the passion for selling creates the desire for the learning that occurs in the profession of selling. I often think, what would happen to a young person if they just give 10% of the amount of time to learning the sales profession that they'd have to put into becoming a doctor or an attorney or an automotive mechanic, for example. I wonder what kind of success that they would have. You see, most people in selling only learn enough to get by, whatever getting by means. And when you stop to think that you can earn more money in selling than you can doing anything else, regardless of your background, regardless of how many degrees that you may have, you can earn more money in selling than anything else. Doesn't it seem sort of highly unlikely then that all you have to do is go out and get a sales job and go out and start earning that kind of money and have that kind of success? If it was that easy, everyone would be doing it. But it is available for the people that are willing to pay the price or earn the rewards.
What would you say to individuals who are in the profession but not part of a professional association?
Well, I think that that's one of the characteristics of true success, is fraternizing with the people in your profession. And you do that through membership in a professional association.
True. Any comments that you would like to make to our members today, especially those that are going to be gathering to celebrate SMEI's 75th anniversary?
Well, it's been just an unbelievable experience for me. I've only belonged to 2 associations in my career, and one of them was, of course, SMEI, and I'm still a member, active, dues-paying member today.